Hi, I'm Pauletta Hansel, and I am very honored to be part of the Ohioana Book Festival this year, 2022. And I'm very sorry I can't be with you in person, but am happy to have the opportunity to read these poems to you and to participate on a panel and to be involved in outreach programs and all the other exciting things that Ohioana is doing to help promote authors and writing in this great state. I am also the 2022 writer in residence for the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library, and I'm proud to be that as well. I have a new book out. It's called Heartbreak Tree. I'm sorry, I've marked my reading poems here. And I'm going to read some poems from this book. I'll read a few from the first chapter and then we'll, or section rather, and then we'll skip around a little bit. The first poem is called Story, and there is a series of poems called Story that are spread throughout the book. That all speak to my own background and my family's background in Appalachia and beyond, and use story as both a metaphor and as a way of talking about who I am and who we are. So story. I don't mean to be ungrateful. I was bred for wanting more, the way a racehorse is bred for the wind's scent. Those impossible legs like winged twigs that will snap in a high wind. What moves us onward is the same sometimes as what breaks us to the ground. Here's a story about my grandfather that I don't like to tell. How he found a World War II deserter's bundle tucked inside a cave. How he kept the money, then turned the guy in for a $15 reward. I'm not saying our people weren't hungry. We were always hungry. I'm not saying who my grandfather was is who I am. What my mother wanted was to be far away from where she started. What my father wanted was to begin again. I'm telling you, the hardest thing I've ever had to do is to stop wanting what I already have. The story, which is the first poem in the book. The second poem in the book is called A Letter to Myself 15, and it is also part of a series of letter poems that are spread throughout the collection. Each begin with an epigraph from Henri Michaud's I Am Writing to You from a Far Off Country. The epigraph for this first poem is, when are we going to see each other at last? Letter to Myself 15. Listen, girl, you are, despite yourself, becoming, not become. I know you think there's safety in the fused bone, woman grown. There is no safety in your body, stretched lean into the world, only skin between you and your longing, and skin can be broken, and you can be broken. You are, we are. Girl, listen, I say, but I know you will not. My words are a swirl picked up by the wind, brought back to me. So as you can see, these early poems are really looking at myself as a young woman of primarily of 15, but of other ages. And then I'll move forward into time, of course, because we don't stay 15, looking at myself and how that girl helped to make me. And then the final sections of the book really do kind of broaden out to look at Appalachia and even the country as a whole, often with this lens of the intersection of gender and place. And in this book, place is specifically Appalachia and more specifically Eastern Kentucky. So another girlhood poem, Dirt. What people in town remember about my family's home was the dirt in the fenced front yard where no grass could stay grown, worn down by the feet of the kids Mom kept in the daycare, where I worked too the summer I was 15 in my shorts and tank top, sitting out on the rock wall that bisected the dirt of the yard from the dirt of the driveway. Once an old woman driving stopped. I don't know how old is old, maybe the old I am now, older than dirt, carved crevices around her mouth to tell me she once had a waist like mine, steep sloping down, though her ass sat up higher. I have been thinking about dirt, or maybe the rock along the road I never noticed I'd noticed growing up there, sandstone and shell striated with coal that always looked wet, even in summer, grass a paler brown than the dirt, which, depending on where in the county you were, might be a gravelly, sandy, stony, silty loam. Maybe she said buttocks. Probably she said butt. I didn't know what to say to her. I had nothing to say. On the road out of town, Kentucky 15 to the parkway, to the highway, an hour to there, and you're almost to Lexington, where there's something to do, not sit surrounded by kids and old and dirt, rough, broken, mountainous, deeply dissected. I didn't know that I knew how the farther you got up the road, the coal is gone. There's clay in the rock, and the grass is greener. I mean, really, it is on the other side. So keeping with the image of the road, this poem is called The Road. There is one patch of Route 15 just north of what was home, where whatever weather is, there is more of it. Cloudburst, blizzard, smear of sun that finds its way through needle eye of mountain. You've pulled the tangled thread of road with you this far. Go on. No one waits, hand up to curtain, listening for your graveled turn. There's only past throwing its shadow on the lane that sends you back toward what is gone. Your eyes will soon adjust. When did you know it's not enough to carry splintered pieces underneath your skin? Home is the place you must choose again. And then the next poem, you will perhaps recognize at least a little bit of the title, the first part of the title, which is a twist to it that I give at the end. Home is the place where, when you have to go there, you only think about how to get out. Busted up doll heads where the canned goods used to be, sun-steeped, hill-buckled sidewalks, and everybody just looks tired. Nobody cares this is where your mother used to buy her meat. The houses you lived in plowed under, moles scuttled through plumbing cracked with black dirt and roots. Nobody cares about your old woman body grown on the bones of the girl who used to walk these streets. Everybody has their own worn bones. Everybody remembers you, sort of. The newspaper man calls you by your mother's name. You can't remember the name of who you sat next to in math class or whose back seat you crawled out of nights, the river fog so dense you came home, hair and misplaced clothes all damp and smelling like mountain. Nobody cares you know this town by what is gone. Stench of grease spilled from the closed pool hall, mailbox on the corner where the boys sprawled, pelvises jutted out to block your path. You pull up your car too close to the high curb somebody told you was made for hitching horses. Nobody had any horses. So that's home is the place where when you have to go there, you only think about how to get out. So I'm going to move on into the collection a bit and share a couple of poems about my parents. This first for my mother, poem written while contemplating a newly dug Southern Kentucky grave. Neither born nor buried in such bright, heavy earth, My mother, in between, found a patch of her own and claimed it, tamed it with horseshit and other black offerings, night after night as the sun went down behind a rise, so gentle she would hardly call it a hill, much less a mountain. She knew her mountains, the shadows they made. Here, only hers bent and rose, bent again to make the bed her lilies would rise from. Come fall, she would press her small foot hard against the spade's square edge, push it deep through the layers of soil to fling at my feet a pale dangled cluster I carried north, clay still clinging to the roots. My mother is ash now, her garden mowed over and sown with someone else's seed. By my door, her lilies, streaked red as turned clay. It's for my mother. And this poem is for my father, and it begins with an epigraph from Don West, who is a famous West Virginia working class poet, born actually in further south, but who made his home in West Virginia when I lived there, actually, as a older teen. And it also includes a few lines from his poem in this poem as well. The epigraph in this poem is, "I've seen beauty in Harlan and the trailing arbutus, but beauty is a stranger to the coal camps." And that's Don West. My poem, For Beauty. Ground laurel, Mayflower, trailing its pink-tipped blooms in the month of my father's birth. Epigea repends upon the earth, arbutus, the only dew I love in the language of flowers, and he, in his way, stayed true to the ground he grew on. My father always had to have the mountains in his sight, no matter the trails of his sorrowing, restless mind. His feet stayed planted in mountain dirt. Trailing arbutus is very difficult to establish and perpetuate. It will not tolerate disturbance, is extremely susceptible to failure, even in good conditions. That's a quote. From him, I learned you could love what you always hate. Gaunt-eyed, gulp down, everlasting grime and dirt and digging. But beauty is never a stranger. So I will skip on a bit into the book and read a poem from the middle section and then a couple of poems from the ending section. This poem is called Reflection. The old sycamore overhanging the pond, how the light on its large, unlovely leaves, mottled lace by late summer, reflects not from above, but below, undersides glowing with sun mirrored upward. How, for an hour or two in the morning, there is this geometric miracle, witnessed only by me and anyone else who walks the gravel road from the retreat center to this lake named Mary for her statue in the middle, where I sit year after year trying to find a poem. There was the year I stomped the perimeter, trailing a chain of tobacco smoke and fury, the year of gratitude, too many years of tears, the year I let go. Sometimes I think I am the only thing that changes here. Then I remember 2 summers or more, Mary lay with the fish at the bottom of her pond, only to rise again, aided by what complicated contraption no one ever said. Soon I'll rise too, on my still sturdy legs, no closer to knowing light's trajectory, no farther away. And then another of the series, Letter to Myself 15, again with epigraphs by Henri Michaud from his poem, I am writing to you from a far off country. This epigraph You can't imagine everything that's in the sky. Letter to myself, 15. All day has been about the weather and you. This morning's snowfall thought itself more than it was, soft down to bristled gray by noon, then sun, then blue, then not. It's not as if this is metaphor for us, though you, who once I was, are silk tailored to the bone, and I, who you become, will lie in bed some mornings, trying to remember when it was my body loosened from itself, counting the folds. Here is what I want you to know. Most days, today, I think myself more beautiful than you ever did. You would not believe the way I dance. My husband's hand against the bone the wing would unfold from, should I ever decide to fly. So I'll end with a couple of poems from the final section of Heartbreak Tree. So maybe it's true. Poetry doesn't make you a better person, and the news that can be found there is like some gone week Sunday Times, tossed in its clear green wrapper beneath the neighbor's car, the one who died, and no one came to find him, and you didn't knock on his door with his trash can of carry-out chicken and ribs, set spilling its own kind of news. Maybe. But oh, to live a while as marrow in someone else's bones, to breathe her breath upon the mirror held up to your life. Doesn't it make you want to fling open whatever door you come to? Doesn't it make you want to try? And the final poem I will share with you, my readers and listeners, is called To You. We need all the mothers we can get, I was once fond of saying. And I was talking about me then, mothering all my borrowed girls, the one who wrote me at the end of class, shy as pencil strokes. I pretend sometimes you are my real mother. The one who nested in her love seat, silent but for clicks below her screen, Tuesdays, Thursdays, alternate weekends, until her father drove her to her real home on the other side of town, as decreed. I didn't know you back when I pretended longing was enough to make a girl my own. I admit it now. I need all the daughters I can get. The grown ones, fine web of lines around kind mother eyes, who love me for my longing. Daughters who are mothers to my words. Thank you very much. I am Pauletta Hansel, author of Heartbreak Tree, and I appreciate you listening.